Welcome to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. My name is Stefanie Dingbaum. I am a mental health therapist, and I am so passionate about all things health and wellness, personal development, and empowering others to be their most authentic and best versions of themselves. Here at Therapeutic Intentions, we are all about having intentional and authentic conversations on whole body health, healing practices, mindset, and ways to uplevel your life so you can truly be the best version of you. If you are a woman, a mom, hope to someday be a mom, a healer, or just in a place where you want to start prioritizing yourself and your health, then this podcast is for you. I am so glad you're here. If you're ready, let's get to it. Hello. Welcome back to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm so excited because this is actually the last solo episode of 2024. And I've been doing this podcast since March of this year. And so it feels like such a monumental moment going into 2025. And there's a lot I want to share with you in today's episode about some changes that are going to be happening going into the new year. So I'll just say the whole goal in today's episode is to share with you that the podcast is actually going through a rebranding at the start of 2025. The podcast is going to have a new name, a new cover photo, everything. I mean, I really invested a lot of time and effort into this rebranding. And so I'm really excited to share this with you because it just feels so aligned and so right doing all of this, like kicking off the new year with the rebranding. I'm so freaking pumped. The new name of the podcast going into 2025 is going to be the Next Level You podcast. So Therapeutic Intentions podcast will be gone and we will be stepping into the Next Level You podcast. And I'm so excited about this. Like I said, this just feels so right and so aligned. But I want to spend a few minutes before diving too deep into this. I wanted to spend a few minutes explaining to you why I'm rebranding the podcast in the first place, especially since it hasn't even been a full year yet that the podcast has been live. Just to give you some background information, I've been working with a business coach since October of this year. And part of working with this coach, so her name is Julia Martin, and you've probably heard me talk about her in past episodes. She's a big expander in my life. And part of her Dream Your Biz coaching program included a 90-minute session with a psychic medium. Her name's Jessica Rachel. And I'll put her information in the show notes if this intrigues you. So part of that session with Jessica Rachel was to tap into our business spirit guides and get information from our spirit guides as we're building this new business to make sure that the decisions that we're making are truly soul aligned, are truly meant for us, for our soul's journey. And part of what came through in that session was literally that the podcast needed to make a shift. My spirit guides were coming in loud and clear saying you need to get away from health and wellness and you need to shift your focus into personal and professional development. And so that's a big reason why I'm doing this rebranding, because I'm responding to that message from my spirit guides. But besides that message, I also have been getting some really powerful feedback lately from some listeners, some of which are good friends of mine. One of my good friends, Amanda, had actually mentioned recently that she's been listening to the podcast and that it's been really helpful for her. But then she said, it's interesting to me, like your podcast is called Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. So, I would expect just this very calming aesthetic, this very calming episode. But she's like, when I get into the episode and I'm listening to you, you give off this like high vibe, like badass self showing up behind the mic. And you really give this vibe of like, come join me in my badass self. And I just thought it was really interesting feedback because you just never know how other people perceive you. I mean, I get behind the mic weekly and I just record whatever is on my mind. And so it's really helpful getting this feedback from listeners, especially listeners who know me personally, because I definitely did not know I was giving off that vibe. I mean, obviously I get excited when I'm behind the mic, but I definitely did not know I was giving off that vibe. And it really got me thinking. She gave me that feedback after I had my psychic medium session. And I was thinking like, wow, she didn't even know the message I got from my spirit guides, but she's right. Like I get behind the mic and I get so like excited and I'm just high vibing, and I can definitely see how I'm giving off that vibe to listeners. And so ever since getting that feedback, I really have been pouring into shifting the podcast, and these nudges to shift it have been so strong. And as I'm making decisions for the podcast going into 2025, it all just feels so aligned and so right. So I know I'm doing the right thing. And I'm just so excited to share these changes with you guys because I have some really big things in store for the podcast for 2025. And so I'm just so excited for you guys to experience this shift with me. So if you have enjoyed the podcast, I really appreciate if you want to share your feedback with me. I would really appreciate that. And if you've picked up on these vibes as well and you're excited about this shift, let me know. I would love to hear from listeners, like whether this resonates with them or not. Okay, so shifting gears, I want to do a little bit of reflecting with you guys. You know, it's natural going into the new year or going into the end of the year to reflect on this past year, right? Like we're all doing that this time of year. And so I thought I would take some time in today's episode to do some reflecting on the podcast, the last 9 months of the podcast, where I started in this journey and how it's led to where I'm at today. So in full transparency, I started this journey initially because of my own health and wellness journey. When I first started the podcast, it was March of 2024. And I just felt so strongly that people needed to be more educated on these holistic health and wellness options. And part of educating people on that came from my own journey, going through the fertility journey myself, and also like trying to regulate and balance my hormones as part of that journey. And there's just so much that I've learned about my body, about my just health and wellness in general that I want people to know about. And I got so passionate about that through the fertility journey. And I also feel very strongly, or I felt very strongly back in March, that people need to bring more healing into their lives. And not everybody is educated on the different healing options that are available, especially in today's world. Like there's so much more than there ever used to be. And so part of the mission of the podcast back in March was to bring more awareness to all of the different healing modalities that are out there. But then I realized going into Q4 that while I have lots of opinions on health and wellness, I really get lit up inside when I can talk to listeners about going after my dreams, about showing up confidently, making soul-aligned decisions, whether that be both in business and in life, and just in general, showing up unapologetically as your authentic self. Like all of those things combined get me so freaking excited. And while a large part of me feels passionate about educating and empowering listeners to prioritize their health and well-being, I'm also finding that there's just a really large part of me who is also passionate about encouraging women. I feel like when I show up behind the mic, I feel like I'm talking to a younger version of myself. And I'm telling that younger version of myself, you know, step into that next level version of you. Who is she? Step into her now, today. And that's a big reason why the podcast is shifting, is because I have felt so strongly lately when I record these episodes that, yeah, health and wellness is important, but ultimately you can't be successful in life, whether it be running your own business or just whatever your professional endeavors look like. You can't be successful in life if you're not prioritizing your health and wellness, obviously. So even though I'm making the shift into personal/professional development, it's still going to incorporate health and wellness. It's just that that's not going to be the overall theme of the podcast anymore. And don't get me wrong, health, like I said, health is a big part of being successful, but I don't want it to be the sole mission of the podcast anymore. And so many of the collabs that I brought on in 2024 have really opened my eyes to the power of running a business with confidence and clarity. And that if those two things are missing, your business could suffer. I mean, to be completely blunt and honest with you, that's the truth. And I've seen that in some people, how when they're lacking both the clarity and the confidence, the business is not thriving. And so that's a big reason too why I'm starting my coaching business, and the podcast is very cohesive with the coaching business as well. So I just wanted to let you listeners know how the podcast is shifting and why it's shifting and kind of the journey in the last 9 months.
If you are short or petite in any way, then listen up. This ad is for you. Did you know that nearly half of all women in the US are 5'4" or under, therefore considered petite? Being petite should not mean compromising on your style. For years, I shopped in the children's section at certain stores just to be able to find clothes that fit me somewhat decently without needing to be hemmed or altered. Even when I did shop in the adult section, it was always difficult to find clothes that came in extra small, or even worse, extra, extra small. The only way to find petite clothes was for me to order online. But that meant not being able to try them on or know if they fit correctly or not. When I finally did find some loyal companies that actually sold my sizes, I still almost always needed alterations to be done. Either the arms were too long, the pants were too long, or the waist was still wider than I'd like. I felt like I was not asking for too much to be able to have clothes that fit me to a T without needing to spend extra money getting clothes altered. Due to the poor fit in clothes, I had grown to hate shopping. Seriously, you guys, I never looked forward to it, especially knowing I wasn't going to find something that fit me just right. This frustration led me to researching style boxes in hopes that maybe, just maybe, I could find a style box to accommodate my petite size. Initially, I hit dead end after dead end. Either they didn't offer petite options or they didn't go down to extra, extra small in sizes, which is what I needed. All my prayers were answered one day when I stumbled upon a clothes subscription box called Short Story. Short Story's mission is to help petite women dress with total confidence. They acknowledge that fashion has never been petite friendly, and they are completely rewriting the rules. Amazing, right? They have clothes for petites of all sizes, all heights, and all shapes. Even better, they get their inspiration directly from their buyers, people like you and me who subscribe to them. They literally create and design their clothing lines using our specific feedback. How freaking amazing is that, you guys? There's so much I love about Short Story, but I'll keep it short and sweet so you can get back to the show. First things first, you can order boxes monthly, bi-monthly, every 3 months. You can personalize it to your own specific shopping needs, which is awesome. No more ordering online, going into stores. I get my box monthly and it always comes with 7 items. I would say on average, I keep anywhere from 4 to 6 of the items depending on the month. And another added benefit, when I started, I took their styling quiz and gave them my specific measurements for my entire body. We're talking bust, waist, height, arm length, etc., which means no more alterations. Everything fits my arms, my legs, all of it. It's like, I don't know, I feel like I have my own personal stylist. It makes me feel like a freaking rock star. And after each box, I'm able to give my stylist feedback on the item she sent and requests that I have for future boxes. So I'm always getting my fashion needs met depending on what time of year we're in and what I'm looking for and what events I might have coming up. I am always satisfied too, because it's pretty rare for my request to not be granted, not gonna lie. Finally, when you fill out your styling quiz in the beginning, you get to tell them your price point, what you can and can't afford, what style you prefer, what you like, what you don't like when it comes to clothing, and you can give them access to your Pinterest style board, which, truth be told, best thing I ever did for myself. I literally have manifested my Pinterest style board in real life, you guys, because they look at it each month, and if I pin new items to it, they'll try and send me items that I've pinned or close to it. Talk about an added bonus. It's just amazing. So seriously, I feel like I've bragged enough. I'm sure you get the point by now. Short Story is for petites of all ages, all sizes. If you are 5'4" and under, this is the subscription box for you. No more shopping in stores. Let your clothes come directly to you. Hopefully, this will then save you time. I know we all need more of that, and money in the long run. I wouldn't be recommending a company that I myself don't strongly support and believe in personally. I have been a loyal subscriber of Short Story for over 6 years now, and I am so proud of it. Be honest. If you are short or petite like me, wouldn't you love to show up at professional events or family gatherings feeling confident in what you're wearing, knowing that it came tailored to your specific fashion needs? If you're intrigued at all, go into my show notes for today's episode and use the referral link that I put in there. This link will waive your $25 styling fee for your first box. If you are anything like me and you're ready to uplevel your style, show up as that next level version of yourself, and feel like $1,000,000, then subscribe to Short Story today. I promise you will not regret it. All links will be in my show notes for today's episode.
So, looking into the future, because again, we're at the end of 2024. Naturally, this time of year, people reflect on all that's happened in the year. And then along with that, they look into what they hope to bring into their life in the future, in the next upcoming year. So my vision for the future for the podcast is that I really want to equip all of you listeners with the tools that you need to manifest your dreams. I want to inspire you to pursue what lights you up inside. And I'm telling you, I have some truly kick-ass collabs planned to kick off the new year to help inspire you. I'm not going to drop any names yet, but I'm so freaking pumped for some of the guests that I'm bringing on. I really want to motivate you guys to build a soul-aligned business. And if you're not starting a business, but you enjoy the podcast, I want to motivate you to build just a soul-aligned life. You don't have to be an entrepreneur if you're a listener, but I want you to build a life that truly feels soul-aligned, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. I want to help you to let go of old stories that no longer align with you. I want to help listeners embrace those qualities that feel aligned so that you can truly show up as that next level version of yourselves. So I really truly feel that by focusing on these topics, that I can really help all of you listeners to achieve the growth that is necessary in your life so that you can truly step up in whatever area you feel you've been holding yourself back in. So with all of this being said, I want to give you an exercise that you can do before the end of the year that I think can be really powerful to kicking off 2025. So I invite you to take some time, either right now, after you listen to this, you could pause the episode, or after the episode is done, you can do this exercise. But I encourage you to intentionally set some time aside to sit down and do some personal reflecting. I want you to ask yourself these questions, okay? So if you have a journal or a notebook nearby or just a piece of paper, jot these questions down or put it into your phone, whatever you need to do. But what I want you to do is I want you to answer these questions that I'm going to give you. And what I want you to do when you're answering them is just word dump your answers to these questions. Like, don't overthink it. Just whatever comes up in your mind, put it down in the journal. Don't edit your thoughts, because whatever comes to the surface, that's your intuition talking, and your intuition never steers you wrong. Okay, so some questions to ask yourself. What does that next level version of myself look like? What are her daily habits? What does she spend her free time doing? What are her values? What matters to her most? How does she want others to view her? How does she want to show up in the room? So like I said, write these questions down. If you need to pause, if you need to re-listen, do that. And then just word dump anything that comes up as you're journaling your answers to these questions. And then I want you to take it a step further. After you word dump everything that comes to mind, I want you to find some quiet time, some alone time. And I want you to allow yourself to visualize this next level version of yourself. So take, 10, maybe 15 minutes, get comfortable, do some deep breathing, take some deep breaths, close your eyes, maybe turn on some background noise, maybe, turn on some white noise, whatever it needs to be, and close your eyes, and then just picture her. All the details you wrote down, just picture it in your mind. Picture how your days look. Picture what those daily habits are. Picture how she dresses, how she shows up in the room. Is she showing up with confidence? Do you see her passion? What does her day-to-day schedule look like? Who is she spending time with? All the things, okay? Just picture it all. Just visualize all the little details of her day, of her life. And then after you spend some time doing that, just breathe her in. Just imagine breathing her in and then truly embodying her, because she is you ultimately. And then after all of that is said and done, I want you to ask yourself if your goals for the new year are aligned to that vision that you saw in your head. If not, do you need to shift some of your goals? Because ultimately your goals need to align with that vision that you saw in your head. And if there's a disconnect there, then you need to make some shifts going into 2025. And I want to share with you guys the rebranding of the podcast, Next Level You podcast, it's very personal to me, because 2024 was a year where I truly leveled up. I mean, I have been working with a business coach these last 12 weeks. And like I said, I'll put her information in the show notes if you're intrigued, if you think you'd like to work with her. But I can say without a doubt that I experienced a quantum leap in these last 12 weeks. Really, in the last year, I did. I mean, my growth was huge. I am nowhere close to the girl I was at the start of 2024. I mean, when I say quantum leap, I'm saying like this was a huge year for growth for me, both personally and professionally. I mean, okay, I worked with 2 business coaches. I worked with one back in January. I worked with one, like I said, at the start of October. I also worked with a life coach I worked with a business coach in January and a life coach in January at the same time. The life coach helped me get my podcast off the ground. The business coach helped me with getting my systems in place for the private practice. So working with all 3 of these coaches in 2024, that's a huge reason why I experienced this quantum leap. I mean, I incorporated a shit ton of personal and professional development this year. And then on the personal side of things, I also incorporated a ton of personal healing into this year. I had regular Reiki sessions. I had multiple shamanic healing sessions. I incorporated a BQH session earlier this fall. I had a couple different psychic medium sessions. I have been doing daily meditation for the last like 3 months, which was a huge game changer in my personal growth. And there's probably others that I'm missing, but all of these things combined are a huge part of the reason why my growth catapulted this year. Like seeing the benefits of this, like my private practice truly took off this year. I mean, I left a facility in January of 2024 to go out on my own. And since being on my own, like my caseload took off. I mean, it like grew exponentially. It was phenomenal. It was amazing. And I've been full for, I really want to say for the last, I think 9 months. So that's just been such an amazing feeling. And then going into Q4 of this year, I've been pouring my heart and soul into building the second business. And both of these businesses, both the private practice and now my new coaching business, are just truly soul aligned for me. And the podcast too, of course. They're all three just soul aligned. They're meant for my soul's journey and they feel so right. And I'm confident in all three of them. And I'm assuming you can tell I'm passionate about all of them as well. And I gotta say, it just feels so good to say going into 2025, I will have 2 thriving businesses and a successful podcast. I mean, I'm just so proud of myself. And it feels so good to be able to say that. And so for all of those reasons, I want to be a cheerleader for others. I want others to have this alignment. I want others to feel confident in their businesses or in their professional arena, whatever they're doing. I want others to be inspired like I am. And I want to empower others like I've been empowered. I want others to experience this growth that I've experienced, this quantum leap that I've experienced, because it's a game changer. So I want to leave you with an affirmation that has motivated the shit out of me this past year. And I currently have it on the screen of my phone. So every day or every time I look at my phone, I read it. I see it on there. So the affirmation is, God, show me how easy it can be and how good it can get. I'm going to repeat that again. God, show me how easy it can be and how good it can get. I am telling you that reading this affirmation every day is a big part of the reason also why I experienced this quantum leap at the end of 2024. I feel that affirmation is being lived out right now. I'm not saying that running 2 businesses is easy. It's not. But when you're doing something that feels soul aligned, when you're doing something that just lights you up inside, even the hardest tasks, well, they're hard, but they grow me. But even those hardest tasks, they don't feel as difficult. And the growth makes it completely worth it. So this is your time to rise up, step into your power, and manifest your next level life. I want to tell you guys that I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I am so grateful that you've listened in 2024, that you found value in the podcast. For those of you that have rated the podcast, that have left reviews, I'm grateful for you. Thank you. If you haven't rated the podcast, please take a few minutes and do that now. If you want to leave a review, please do that. I would greatly appreciate it. And when there are reviews, I will give you a shout out in upcoming episodes. But I am just so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm grateful that you listen. I'm grateful that you find value in this. And I have no doubt that going into 2025 that you're going to get even more out of this. I'm so excited for what's to come on the podcast in 2025. So stay tuned, and you're going to see, if you follow me on Instagram, you're going to see the announcement on Instagram about the rebranding, the podcast becoming the Next Level You podcast. So if you see the post, share some love. I greatly appreciate it. Share it with friends and family. If there's anyone that you feel is going through a growth period and needs the support, share the podcast with them. It means so much to me. All right, guys, have a great end of the year. Have a great new year. I cannot wait to talk to you all in 2025. All right. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for listening to us. It means so much to me. If there were any aha moments or anything that really resonated with you on today's episode, then please take a minute and share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you. Also, if you could, please rate and review the podcast as it is new, and that really helps to get the word out there more and reach even more listeners. I'll catch you on the next episode.